the Federal Executive Council. You recall that the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan which is being headed by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, submitted last week a 2.3 trillion naira stimulus package to the Federal Executive Council. And on Wednesday, that's on 24th of June 2020, it was approved. Now, we were talking about this last week, Friday, Mr. Debo, and you said that the plan was vague, wasn't transparent, didn't state explicitly what the people needed to know. And we were hoping that, perhaps the council would look into it again to see if there are any loopholes to fill. But alas, it has been approved. So, Mr. Debo, what do you have to say about this? Because I know this got you by surprise.
It's a shame, and I think I will. It's a shame that the question I would even ask some of the media officers is, which of them has gone through the document? Like, I wish Femi Adesina or Garba Shehu would tell us if they have gone through the entire document. I guess the answer would be no. I start from a simple thing like, so how do you even get the funds? I hear things like special accounts. What does special accounts mean? What does that mean? What does special accounts mean? They can't even tell us what that means. And I give an example. You remember we got some money from IMF recently, and there was a lot of confusion about, oh, it's a loan, it's our money, it's this. But you know what? It turned out to be that it's actually Nigeria's money in IMF, which is like a statutory requirement, statutory savings. IMF has a requirement for every country to save some money. So if you're in very desperate circumstance, you can apply to get your savings back. But then you pay some administrative charges. I don't know, maybe 1% or thereabout. You pay some fees, for taking the money back from IMF, which to me is tantamount to paying. They don't want to call it interest, but to me, if you're paying as much as 1% or 0.5, it's quite significant. And then you're still mandated to refund the money as quickly as possible. So it's not that IMF suddenly says you can take that money forever. No, when your economy picks up, you have to put the money back. So it's technically a loan. It's a loan. It's like they're allowing us to access our funds, and we have to return it as soon as possible. And we also have to pay a processing fee. Now, these special accounts they're talking about, what does it mean? Is it Nigeria's money in CBN, Nigeria's money in World Bank, or where? Are we paying any processing fee for it? If we are, how much are we paying? How much is the fee we're paying? We need to know the cost of accessing the special funds from the special accounts. I think these are very important points, because I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out to be a loan. If it turns out to be an account that we still have to refund money back into. And then if that's the case, it means that we have to add it to our debt profile. And Nigerians need to know, what that means. Second, like I said last week, they've talked about so many nice things. Is there nobody in government that can do a 2-page summary, not too long, 2-page summary that clearly indicates how this information will be promoted? I mean, how a lot of people will know about it, so that it's not just the privileged elites that would know how to access these funds. That really hurts me, because a lot of poor people who don't have information, they don't have access to internet, they don't have phones, they can't even read this 76-page document. So they don't even know how they can benefit from it. So the question is, how do we promote this information to people all across the country? Second, how do we determine beneficiaries? Because Nigeria is a country with a lot of trust issue. Every country has its own issue. In Nigeria, trusting government is perhaps the biggest challenge. So how do you earn people's trust? By being very transparent, perhaps even more transparent than in
And
the United
effective.
States or Europe. Exactly. By being very clear, with what you want to do. Let us know how we would benefit, who are going to be the beneficiaries, and that shouldn't take more than 2-3 pages of work. I haven't seen such document. I have been searching. The only document I've only seen two things. One, the press release. Second, the 76-page document. And for me, if they are expecting journalists to do the summary for them, then the government should be ashamed of themselves. Now, I think journalists should. I don't know why I'm the only one talking about this. I thought that a lot of people should be talking about this
Talking
and
about.
asking government questions. Journalists should be asking specific questions from government. I think journalists should be able to summarize and let people know this document doesn't include a lot of important information. But I don't think it's the responsibility of journalists to summarize for government. No, I think government needs to have their own 2-3 page summarized document so that Nigerians can read. Because you've made it so difficult for Nigerians by just putting forward press release and 76-page. How many people are going to read a 76-page document? Nigerians don't read like that. That's the truth, if we want to be honest. So it's just like deliberately hiding this from us. So that's my view. I think it's nice. Every country needs stimulus, but I I will feel very bad if this turns out to be another largesse, another money for the
Okay.
boys, money for
Okay.
APC members.
Okay, for it not to turn out as another avenue for embezzlement of funds now, what processes would you advise that um, the committee or the NESP follow to ensure that this money is appropriately disbursed to the right people who have been, spelled out in the document to be beneficiaries of the fund?
So the first thing is, it's nice that this program was created by a group that included the private sector. That was good. But the question is, who implements? If you allow government to handle 100% of the implementation, I guarantee you it's not going to work well. I'm a Nigerian, any Nigerian that has followed government process for decades will clearly agree that it's not going to work well. So first, I think that they need to include credible private people. And I use the word credible, because private doesn't mean you are not corrupt. I think they
Incredible.
need to include credible non-government people in a um I would say in a control group, in a board, or in an oversight group that will monitor the implementation. I think that there should be a central oversight group, probably that includes the civil society, religious leaders. I mean, if you put some 2-3 highly credible pastors, 2-3 highly credible Islamic leaders. You have 2-3 civil society credible activists. You put economists there. So it's not only about economists and government people. To me, you need credible people. I don't know why we use religion for politics. We use religion for so many things, but we don't like using it, to our favor whenever we want to do things like this. I don't understand that. We need to use these people. Some of them, if you find 10 credible people in Nigeria, very credible people, they need to make use of them in organizations like this. So that there's somebody that's making noise if it's seen that money is about being stolen. If you put a very credible, I don't want to use the word noise, a very credible vocal person in the group that will not keep quiet if money is being embezzled. That person will be a check, you know. So to me, that's the first thing. Let us have private public participation as an oversight group. Second, we need to make it very clear to people across Nigeria how beneficiaries will be determined so that everybody has a chance. I will feel bad if only 10% of Nigerians get access to the information and only 10% of Nigerians, the elites, are the ones applying to benefit. No, we need to allow everybody to benefit. And so we have to make deliberate effort to push this information all around the country. But you don't even push information out if you don't have a summary. You can't push some six-page
Yeah.
document out. So you have to have a summary that clearly explains requirements, that provides good, details, and that's what you can push out. And once you have that summary in place, then you can make deliberate effort to push to promote this information so that lots of people would apply.
Okay. Now let's move over to the article that was published in The Nation and some of the newspapers, most especially an American news outlet published your article. And in that article, you talked about how the current US China trade war, the feud between them, would benefit Nigeria and Africa at large. And you said in that article that Africa must first fix its infrastructure and politics to make it easier to negotiate with the US government. Now, just like China did, you mentioned in your article that China negotiated with the US government. They were supplying manpower, and they basically involved in outsourcing of labor. Okay, so now the question is, if we bring this to Nigeria, let's domesticate it. Do you think Nigeria would do this anytime soon? I mean, working on its infrastructure and politics, and what effect will it have on our employment rate? And pending the time when the continent at large will be able to fix its infrastructure and politics, because I don't think that would happen anytime soon though. So pending the time that will happen, what process, what steps would you advise that government of Nigeria and leaders of the continent take?
So, first of all, China did not have to create a 24-hour power supply for them to start getting, investments from American companies.
Okay.
What they did was to focus on some industrial areas and provide infrastructure there. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about human and physical. Physical infrastructure in terms of power, in terms of transportation to the port, getting everything ready for you to manufacture, deliver to the port very easily, and get it to America, smoothly. But also, they also spend time fixing, I would say, intellectual infrastructure. They've trained their people, they got their people, trained aggressively. They promoted, and Chinese have always been very hardworking people. So they really sped up that process of training people to use their hands and things like that. For me, Nigeria doesn't have to wait until it has 24-hour supply. I mean, sometimes we talk like everything has to be perfect before we can benefit from this trade war. For me, America is looking for alternatives, period. There are right now. You have the Malaysia, you have India, you have different countries that are playing the role of in Indonesia. That are trying to replace China right now, but America needs more. And I'm saying Nigeria has to lead that effort in Africa to promote, first to identify what areas can we add value to America and the West. And give you an example.
Okay.
We speak English a lot in Africa, perhaps more than my Indian friends don't like when I say this, but I think we speak more English than Indians because a lot of Nigerians think in English. A lot of kids in Nigeria are not even speaking their languages any longer. So English is more primary. It's a more primary language in many African countries than India. So South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, these are countries where English is almost like local language, and that is a key value that we need to keep using. And that whether you're talking about software development, which requires a lot of communication, or you're talking about providing outsourcing, customer service, we need to highlight that advantage, that because of our communication skills, we can do things more efficiently, we can do things quicker. And then the question people are going to ask is, oh, what about customer service? What about the accent? But again, we can also leverage it and say, hey, we can teach our people. How did the Filipinos? Right now, a lot of it used to be India years ago that was providing customer service on the phone. Right now, I don't think I've ever made a call in recent years that got routed to India. It's now Philippines, the Caribbeans, usually. And how? The Philippines taught themselves, to be able to, they taught, they're highly educated people, and they went a step further to learn how to speak American accent, or to be able to speak like neutral accent. That's what they call it. And I think Nigerians, Africans can also learn that. Africa can begin to take some of those customer service jobs. In terms of software development, Nigerians are among the smartest people in the world, but we need a government that will deliberately create policies, and especially state governments, to help to enhance training. What I've experienced is Nigerian software developers are not that we don't have a lot of talent in that field, but
Okay.
we have the brains. We have brilliant people who can be taught. Who can work with. I mean, I think state governments can collaborate with private investors to see how we can train Nigerians to be excellent at software development. Uh, if we combine our good communication skills with good coding skills, we will do better than many Asian countries. So for
Okay,
me,
pardon me to okay.
go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
pardon me to cut you short. Now, I remember reading one of your articles, and you mentioned that in Nigeria, IT savvy youth, software developers are costly. Like when they render their services to other countries, they are always so expensive, and they find it costly to afford. Now, how do we then balance it here in Nigeria if we have few number of young persons who are into this field, and yet they want to render the services in very high cost because
So,
they feel like they are
so we need to
sole owners of it.
flood the market with more people. So the Lagos people, pardon me to say that, there's some arrogance in Lagos. We try to think we know more than we do. But if a state like Ogun State provides training, or sponsors young people to be trained, and provides a facility in Abeokuta or Shagam or Ijebode, these are cheap places to live, and provides maybe a corridor, and if an area where there is 24 hours power supply for the guys or for the kids, um, as well as they provide training, they provided 24 hours power supply subsidized by the state government, and you bring people there and say, hey, we will pay for your power, come live in this area, we'll give you 24 hours supply, live in this community and do coding. That will be cheap. Nigeria has to compete first by acquiring knowledge, but we also have to find ways to train a lot of people. So right now, it's only this percentage of good developers in Nigeria is very small. If you go to a country like India or Pakistan, in Philippines, you have millions of developers, and there's a lot of competition that is causing them to drive down their price. That has to happen in Nigeria if we get the numbers up. And if we can get developers in states like Kaduna, Kano, very affordable states to live in, Ogun State, Enugu, a lot of southeastern guys that are also coding. Not everybody has to be in Lagos. You don't have to be in Lagos to be able
Yeah,
to export your coding,
absolutely.
service or software development service. But government has to assist. So, and it doesn't cost a lot. It's not something that is going to cost you billions. It's different from physical infrastructure. This is intellectual infrastructure. So if you build your intellectual infrastructure, it puts you at a higher position of negotiation with America or the West, and say, hey guys, we have few states where we have few states that are providing 24 hours power supply to thousands of software developers. And we guarantee not just power and internet. And these guys can provide they could provide service to you at the same rate as the Asians. That's
Yeah.
going to earn us a lot of jobs. Now, I said in my article, you have some Chinese companies that went from 10 employees to 200, not
Yes.
because
Yes.
of their huge local market, but only because of the foreign market. Now, Nigeria will be able to employ more people if we can deliver products and services to foreign markets. And that's a market that we government just talks about without really acting, And for me, it doesn't cost us so much. We don't have to get it. We don't have to get 24 hours power all through Nigeria to do it. No, we just have to focus and we have to build
Specific
outside
places.
Lagos. If everything is focused on Lagos and Abuja alone, we're going nowhere. Lagos and Abuja are expensive cities. We're not going to compete well if we stick to those cities only. We need to build in the other smaller states.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Debo Onifade. We'll go on another break, and when we get back, we will be rounding up the show with the ECOWAS endorsement and the demolition of the Nigerian building in Ghana. This is still Liberating Nigeria, online show organized by Liberating Nigeria, a leading political forum in Nigeria. We'll be right back.